There's nothing quite like a well-placed lead fill, but it can be really tricky to pull off, especially because you got to come back in and nail the beat. Today, we're going to talk about a really cool, quick, but powerful exercise that you can work on to help you develop a great sense of timing, especially when coming out of these lead fills. Hey, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and this is your Tuesday Blues. We're all about helping you play better blues, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about playing cool little lead runs and how you can make them sound better, but it's actually not about what you're doing on the fretboard so much as about when you're doing it. This is all about timing, and one thing that I think people have a lot of trouble doing is playing a little lead run and then coming in and staying on the beat. It's tough to do, but this little exercise should really give you some nice training ground to build up your skills with this. So let's get to it. Let's talk about the example that you heard. There were two guitars there. One was really just kind of spelling out these chords with an A minor 7 for 2 measures and then a D minor 7 for 2 measures. Which, real quick, how beautiful is this, right? One finger across the 5th fret, just barring the top 4 strings. A minor 7, beautiful, right? And then we're switching to the D minor 7. But notice that at the top of each measure, we're hitting the 5th string bass by itself. And then we're strumming through on beat 2. This is more about what we're doing on beat 1. That's the downbeat. The 1, 2, 3, 4, downbeat, 2, 3, 4. And part of playing lead runs and fills effectively is making sure that you can always keep track of where you are in the measure. And to me, the best guidepost that we've got going for us is that downbeat, right? You can almost mess up everything from beat 2 to 4, but if you come back in on beat 1, that's the first step. That's the first hurdle. You should definitely work on everything in between. Don't ignore it, but you got to stick the landing. You got to make sure that you're coming back in on time. Now let's really zero in on what that lead guitar was doing. This is really the core idea of this strategy that will help you come back in after a lick on the beat. Okay, and it really is because we're emphasizing the downbeat. Take a listen to the drum track that we were playing over, and our downbeat is the kick drum, right? Then beat 2, we've got the snare, and then we've got some hi-hats to round out the measure. But listen to this, how strong it is. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I want you to do on your guitar is to play the downbeat, the open 5th string, and then on beat 2 with that snare pop, I want you to strum through the chord. We're just going to stick with the A minor 7 here. And once you've got that down, for a couple of measures, we're going to play a lick in between, making sure that we come back with that downbeat. The licks don't have to make a lot of sense right now. I want you to focus on the timing. I really want you to develop your sense of that downbeat and coming back to it. So they need to be short. You really can't do anything super fancy inside this, or maybe you can, but let's keep it simple and let's just stick with the A minor pentatonic scale. So that's the first step of this. And then what we want to do is make sure that we can do this and then change chords, because we got 2 chords in our example. So we want to make sure, just to keep things changing a little bit, that we can do this over the A minor 7, but then when it's time to change, we don't lose track of that chord change. We still stay with our 5th string and then strum through the top 4 strings. We're just doing it with a different chord held down. So let's see what that sounds like. We're going to do 2 bars of the A minor 7 and then 2 bars of the D minor 7. Keeping it simple, nothing fancy here. 3, 4. And we could keep cycling that, but hopefully you see how these little licks can happen in between the chords, and even now a chord change, but we're always pulled back on that downbeat. This is a really good exercise to help you create an internal awareness of where that downbeat is. All right. And then the third level of this exercise is to take things into two measures. Right? This actually might be difficult for some of you. Some of you, it's going to be difficult to cram a lick inside one measure and come back because it just feels like not enough space and time. But some are going to lose it when it comes to stretching this out over two measures. And I will give you an example of that in a second because there's some freedom in there. There's some extra time and you might get lost. 3, 4. Premium members are going to have access to that little drum loop to help you practice along and really create that awareness of the downbeat, the all-important downbeat. And if you want to go further, I've got another video for you right here. Just click on over, check that out, and be sure to come back next week for another blues lesson. Until then, practice smart and play on.